A 14-year-old boy in the Bronx was fatally stabbed this week, but it turns out that he apparently was the bully in this case. A boy by the name of Timothy Crump did the stabbing, and the boy that appears to be the bully, who is now dead, unfortunately, is Noel Estevez. So we have a couple quotes from some family and friends that were in the area, and they're now talking about Timothy, who had been suicidal before this all happened. He hasn't been coming to school because he's been bullied. He tried to commit suicide 2 weeks ago. They had him in Bronx Care Hospital. He was in the hospital for 2 weeks. That's Lazaro Batista, who lives in the same building as the suspect. So this boy was being bullied for weeks, was suicidal, and had just come back from being outside of the hospital. Every day he would come to me and tell me, Blue, listen, can you walk with me to the store? Can I come outside and play in the yard with your kids? Can you watch me? Can you make sure if you see any big kids come after me, can you help me? So this sort of is showing you the desperation that this poor kid was in, and again, in the hospital with the suicide attempt for 2 weeks before this happened. And then there was one other, again, from a neighbor. She said yesterday, just yesterday, he said, I'm scared because they constantly are always threatening me. They're gonna kill me. And then the kid got to school the next day, and he brought the knife, and he actually did the killing. So it's hard to talk about these stories because obviously a lot of moving parts. It's kids at school. You know, it's hard to say who's the bully, who isn't, but it sounds like we have some evidence here that this kid was the victim of bullying and was defending himself.
Well, I would just, devil's advocate, it's family friends who are saying it. They're trying to protect a kid who has just murdered someone. So it could very well come out that all this is totally true. It could come out that it wasn't true. We'll find out when it goes to trial, but we can't trust it just because friends of the family are saying that it's true.
Right. It is true that he was in the hospital for the suicide attempt, but again, that doesn't necessarily illustrate.
Yeah. Yeah, I just, I'm so worried because I got kids.
Yeah.
And, you know, we hear the bullying stories. I don't necessarily think that it's worse than it used to be because everybody, you know, we're just hearing them more. I'm positive that there was massive bullying going on before, right? And there aren't a lot of good answers, right? So.
Yeah, because I mean, like,
this is a terrible answer.
Assuming
right?
it's all true, he's talking to neighbors. He almost certainly tried to get the principal to do something, or his teachers. It's very likely that there are many people who are incredibly worried about being killed, have done everything they're supposed to do in terms of talking to authority figures, and still nothing is done about it. The kid just can't move, so you're put in a really bad situation. At the same time, you can't kill someone.
Yeah, that's right. No, like this is. You can't justify this under any circumstance. So that's what makes the story so hard. There aren't that many good answers.
Right, they didn't both have knives.
Right, so if this kid was horrifically bullied for literally years, you know, almost killed himself, if we knew that to be the case, would you feel a little bit differently about what, of course you're not condoning him killing someone, but understanding that a 14-year-old in this world that, you know, that you hear about this stuff all the time, he defended himself. And again, I'm painting a little more of a clearer picture than we have here.
Right. No, I understand that. No, because look, whenever you do violence, there's something's going to go wrong. I mean, it's kind of a funny, weird thing to say. But so let me give you the example in Greece when they were so mad at the bankers, and we all understand why they were mad at the bankers at the time.
Yeah.
And they had so screwed over the Greek population, et cetera. They go into this crowd, goes into a bank, and then kills a perfectly innocent teller. Like, you didn't get the CEO, and it wouldn't have been right if you got the CEO, right? But instead you killed somebody who was just trying to earn a living there, right? So whenever you go to commit violence, it's never going to end up like that. So are we sure that that's the kid who was bullying him the whole time? Are we sure that that kid who was bullying him bullied him with weapons or just his hands? Does that make a difference? How much, you know, did he threaten other kids' life? So you bring the knife, you're very likely to stab the wrong guy. There is no stabbing the right guy anyway, right? Yeah. But even so, you're probably going to stab the wrong guy.
Right, so, and in this very case, for all we know, if he was getting bullied by 10 kids, it may have been the 10th out of the 10 that was doing, you know what I mean, that was bullying him, and not the kid that was doing the most, and he just happened to be there at that time.
So I can say I didn't grow up in like a particularly nice neighborhood. I grew up in Bridgeport, Connecticut, which is a fairly dangerous urban area. And there was a brief period when I was a freshman in high school where one of the seniors he wasn't really bullying me. It just quickly escalated from nothing, me talking to his girlfriend, to him like stalking me basically. And there was a period where I was scared enough where I actually did get a knife. This is before the metal detectors were installed in every entrance to that school, which happened like a year or two later. And I eventually stopped bringing it because I knew that as worried as I was that he was going to attack me or him and his friends were going to jump me or something like that, if I got a stab in, it's not going to end well for me. Like, I'm not going to take it as far as they're willing to take it. And thankfully, I was able to get through that high school experience, get out of that area, by avoiding escalating it farther than it needed to go.
And that's the problem with weapons. John's exactly right about that. So in this case, the guy died. Now you're going to be brought up on murder charges and your life might be over in that way. But if you hadn't killed him and you just stabbed him, then what's he going to do? Is he going to take the knife away from you, stab you? Or you come with a knife, he comes with a gun.
Yeah, what
right?
happens the next day? Does he shoot up your house? Does all of his friends come with baseball bats? It doesn't get better for you after you stab them.
Yeah, so I think the interesting part of this is what you said about having kids now. Do you think there's more of this now? We hear about this all the time. We talk about it all the time. I don't think there's more of it, actually.
No, I don't
I think
either.
we hear about it more because of social media, so a lot of times there's actually evidence because we can see Facebook posts and that kind of stuff. But I bullied kids and I was bullied. Like, I know everyone likes to say, oh, I was the bullied one, but I did it and I was bullied. You know, I was sort of right in the middle of cool. So the cool kids, that's the truth. The cool kids would bully me and I'd bully the guys under me. I mean, it was like, that's sort of how it worked. And that's how it still works now, I think. You know, like that wasn't so revolutionary.
Yeah. I used to bully Rick until he left.
If anything, I think there might be less of, wait, sorry, what?
I used to bully Rick Strom. That's why I left. Yeah, he tried to stab me once.
But if anything, I really think there might be less of this now because of how much exposure it's gotten and things like It Gets Better and all that. You know, the It Get Better campaign.
Yeah.
But we hear about it constantly. So I don't know. So I think there is some hope for the one of us at this panel that has children.
Yeah, I actually think that it's gotten probably much better. I don't know. We'd have to see studies on that. I don't know if there are such studies.
Sure.
But I know that talking about it actually makes people address it a lot more, and so you would think logically that it's gotten better. And then anecdotally, I mean, bullying was a matter of course, it was just that's what happened when we were growing up, let alone before us, the whole, you know, remember Back to the Future, hey McFly, right? And so, I mean, every movie I was never.
You know that was a fictitious movie, right?
Yes.
The documentary Back to the Future.
Yeah. And you remember when they took the DeLorean back? It turns out there was a ton of bullying.
I wish they still made those.
No, but again, it's the movies, and we weren't around in the 1950s. But every movie about the 1950s has like massive bullying in it, right? So yeah, unfortunately, it's been a matter of our lives here, and probably getting better, but it's something that just doesn't have a good answer. I don't, like, as a parent, I don't know what the fuck to do. Like, if somebody's bullying my kid, I want to walk around and like regulate, but you can't regulate on kids.
That's what leads to things like people fleeing inner cities to go to areas they think will be safer.
Whether that's true or not.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
So look, I lived in a simpler time though. We had less weapons. Yeah, I had a knife pulled on me twice, right? So nobody stabbed me though. But it was the suburbs. It wasn't an urban area, and that's why I was pretty confident they weren't going to actually use the knife, right? And back then you were kids and you fought, and so I loved fighting the bullies. That was my favorite thing in the world. Like,
so that's where it comes from.
Yeah, you know who I was, and
from.
this is not a great analogy, but I was over it. I was like, so, except I didn't wind up that way. But I'd love, like, when somebody was picking on a bully, I'd be like, I'll be your champion. Okay, because I like to fight. Yeah. And I felt like, good, then I'll be on the side of justice. Yeah.
Today is not the day I die.
It turned out for me, it wasn't.
Do you guys think that some amount of it is good? I hate to couch it in a story like this, but it happens in real life. It happens as adults in anywhere. People work, whatever it is. So that if you completely shelter kids from bullying and power struggles and all that, well, then they're going to enter the real world and go, fuck, like, this is happening every day now.
Oh, so that's what you mean.
Yeah,
right? Not that bullying is good, but that it happening early on explains to them the real world.
Yeah, because if you shelter kids from it entirely and everything is perfect through getting out of school at 18, I hate to tell you, the world's not like that.
Yeah.
So
you know what? That's such an interesting take. I'd never heard that before.
I think the goal should be to lower it in school and thereby over time lower it throughout society. That would be the hope, at least.
Right.
I think they'll have more than enough problems in school without having knives pulled on them.
Yeah, I'm
School's
not
rough
endorsing
anyway.
it. I'm just throwing the theory
I
out
think
there.
we should test it by sending Dave Rubin to schools around the country and pulling knives on kids.
That's not going to be.
I don't. Probably
I'm not as quick as I used
I'm
to
just
be.
making them stronger.
Yeah.